should be solved by Kang is a mutant Avengers Kang Dynasty. Marvel's supposed to say, but check this out.
For months, content regarding Kang the Conqueror has served to answer many of the most pertinent questions pertaining to the time-hopping warlord, but even through many of these conclusions which we have reached, there are still several questions pertaining to Kang the Conqueror that have yet to be revealed. One of the most ambiguous details has to do with the extent of his exact technological capabilities by the MCU standards, as well as exactly which variants we'll come to know. There are, however, several alleged leaks and claims which seem to answer both of these questions, as well as leave us with much more, and one in particular might seem to suggest that at least one version of Kang may in fact be a mutant. So, stick with us today, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse, and let's discuss the possibility that one variant of Kang might be a mutant, and the evidence which seems to suggest as much, before diving into which version may in fact be a part of the mutant family. The theory in question revolves around the recent introduction of Kamala Khan and the impact that she is said to have on Phase 5 and 6 of the MCU, as well as the mystery of her family lineage. Recently, it has come to light that Kang will seemingly be seeking out several artifacts from across the multiverse, including the 10 rings from Shang-Chi, as well as Kamala's own bangle, in order to further his own agenda of conquest. While we have released several videos surrounding where exactly the bangle and the 10 rings come from, let's discuss one of the most notable implications that this theory has that hasn't been talked about as much. At the end of the Ms. Marvel series, we learn why Kamala Khan is the only one in her family that can utilize the power of the bangle, and her friend Bruno attributes this to an anomaly in her very DNA. He states that she has a genetic mutation, which sets her apart from the rest of her family, and this is the reason why she can use the bangle while nobody else in her family has ever been shown to be able to. This begs the question, however, that if Kang does in fact want the bangle back, then does that mean that he too is a mutant? If the bangle can only be used by mutants, then it stands to reason that whichever version of Kang wants it will also be a mutant. Otherwise, he would not be able to use its power and would thus have no reason to hunt it down. In a Kang Dynasty leak, it is said that the 10 rings and the bangle are highly important to Kang and his ultimate plan. But one of the big questions about this is there comic precedence for this? Well, in the comics, while Kang himself is not a mutant, he does have strong ties to the mutants, as several individuals from his family lineage are mutants or have mutant ancestors. Perhaps the most notable and famous of which is that of Franklin Richards, who is one of the most powerful mutants in all of the Marvel Comics lore. As the son of Reed Richards, both Franklin and Kang share a common ancestry, and Kang is distantly related to Franklin. What this means is that it's not inconceivable for at least one version of Kang to develop a mutant gene. It also leaves us to wonder exactly what kind of mutation he might have developed, and how it would impact his MCU depiction, seeing as he does have a history of mutation in his family. Recently, several rumors have been insisting that the version of Kang that we meet in Quantumania will have telekinetic abilities, and will have several telekinesis-adjacent powers to aid in his conquest of the quantum realm. As a side note to this, it's also been rumored that the Kang that we meet in Quantumania will also be the main version in Kang Dynasty. As of now, we don't know the exact origins of Kang's powers, and while we don't officially know for sure whether or not this will be due to his technology, or if he will have this natural power, we can't rule out the possibility that this version is a mutant with telekinetic abilities. But why this version in particular? And why did we hone in on him? Just because he has telekinetic powers doesn't mean that he will automatically be a mutant. This could be the result of technology, and any other Kang known or unknown from anywhere in the multiverse could be a mutant and not this one. So what leads us to believe that this version of Kang in particular is the mutant in question? For this, we need to understand the alleged plot breakdowns for Avengers 5 and 6, which we recently covered in more detail. These plans seem to reference this particular version of Kang specifically, and we know that this version is the likeliest to be dubbed Prime Kang, the primary version of Kang that the Avengers will come to face years down the line. According to the leaks of the supposed breakdowns for Avengers 5 and 6, this version will carry through several projects, and ultimately will be the same version of Kang which will eventually conquer Earth, Earth 616 this is, as well as several neighboring timelines. It goes on to suggest that this is the driving factor behind the Avengers jumping into the multiverse in search of aid in their battle. In Endgame, the Avengers jumped across time, but now they'll be jumping across the multiverse. Importantly though, within these leaks, they reference Kang's quest to find Kamala's bangle. It's important to note, however, that these are early treatments and will most certainly be amended and revised before the scripts are ultimately sent into production. If this proves to be true, however, and this version is set to be an overarching antagonist, then it would mean that he is the one which will seek out the bangle. And if that's the case, then his telekinesis might be attributed to a mutation mutation rather than his technology. Even if his mutation doesn't result in telekinetic abilities, we know that this Kang will have had his body artificially enhanced to the peak of human physical conditioning, using the available technology of the 31st century to augment his abilities even further. While this is likely the product of technology and conditioning, he could theoretically have a mutation which allows him to push himself harder and longer than anyone else. And while again we don't know this for certain, it's a reasonable conclusion to this reach. It would also help to usher in the future of the mutant saga, allowing more mutants to make their appearances, and it could potentially tie Kang to other mutants that have yet to be revealed. Again though, the key to this very theory is that Kamala Khan is only able to use the bangle because of her genetic mutation. And if this bangle and the 10 rings are indeed Kang tech, as many of the leaks suggest, and Kang is after the bangle specifically so that he can jump across the multiverse freely, it makes sense that by the precedence, this Kang may have some sort of genetic mutation as well, making the bangle unique to him if he is indeed the creator of it. Obviously, Marvel has changed things before, as Miss Marvel originally isn't a mutant at all, but is rather an inhuman. All this goes to show that Marvel does change the origins of their characters quite often, and having Kang be a mutant would be a massive twist. But anyway, watchers, what do you think of this theory that Kang may actually be a mutant? Do you think that there is a version of Kang in the multiverse that is a mutant and that created the bangle? And if so, do you believe that this is the same Kang from Quantumania that will travel into the Kang Dynasty? Or is there a different iteration of Kang completely who developed the bangle? As always, watchers, hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and I will hopefully see you soon.